Good morning. This is March 20th, 2013, the day after the great village election where 7 candidates was inside the race running hard. It was a difficult race, but it proves a couple of things to me, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Fairness in the village election. Personally, I think the village election was not fair totally at all. Even though there were 7 candidates running and all 7 candidates put a pretty good effort in it, the landslide victories was Wayne Hall's team. It was a team of Wayne Hall. His team won because of several reasons. There wasn't a Democratic caucus at all. In the Democratic caucus, there was 5 Democrats in the race. We had Henry Connors was in the race, Perry Pettis was in the race, we had Teresa Dyer in the race, and I believe Warren Stiff. But in reality, the Democrats did not get an opportunity to have a caucus. And what the caucus brings is not just the Democratic line that most people believe. Most people believe, oh, we get the Democratic line, we'll win the votes. That's not true. You would win the line, but you also get the resources. You get major resources with people coming in to work the campaigns for you. For example, you get all the Democrats that exist at the Board of Elections to come out and work for you. You get campaign material that able to mail out for you. What people don't realize, right here in this little corner, it says Nassau County Democratic Committee that ran this material. All this material was sent out by the Democratic Committee that if you was able to win a caucus, you would have had resources of this nature. You would not only have resources to put out this material, but you would have resources to put out more and more material and send more and more flyers. I'm quite sure everybody in the village of Hempstead received 6 pieces of mailings from the Democratic Committee, which would be able to give it to any Democrat would have won the caucus. But being that we didn't have an opportunity to have a caucus, you weren't able to send out this luxury, beautiful mailing that brought in over 1,700 votes for the candidates. In fact, Mayor Wayne Hall won by 1,600 votes over all of his opponents, not even counting his trustees. The trustees came in at 1,700 votes. So it proves that the machine, once in place, once in power, once in position, can win a race. And I don't blame the Democrats for winning, because reality is that's what you're supposed to do. What I blame is the residents of the village of Hempstead for not being a part of the structure and the process. Being that we're not committee people with a voice, we have no control over the village and how the revenues that come into the village, and not just these little elections. This little election is just a symbol of how less control we have as a community, meaning that we don't have a say because we don't put in. We don't put the finance in, we don't put the time in. And the proof of that is the numbers that some of these candidates lost by. Jim Gardner, 3 times raced against the mayor Wayne Hall, loses by 750 votes. How can a 16-year Republican mayor with his machine lose dramatically out of 1,600, half the votes? So he went out. Then we have Lance Clark, who ran as good government, and he had the total support of New York State Deputy Speaker. Early Hill actually wrote a letter to all the residents of the village of Hempstead saying that they should support Lance Clark, because Lance Clark would be a vote for her and that she had a great relationship with him. A sitting trustee for 16 years, Perry Pettis, 427 votes he lost by. How can a sitting trustee lose? Let me tell you how he lost. Lack of organization, lack of putting things together. He knew 4 years ago he wanted to run for mayor. He seems to me would have had a mechanics or machining or machine operator to be inside his campaign to create the mechanism to take the win. But he didn't do it. Sitting trustee and deputy mayor of the village of Hempstead, Henry Connors, lost by 187 votes. How can you do that? For 4 years you sat next to Mayor Hall, you worked with Mayor Hall, and you lost by 185 votes. What is wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture? It's speaking loud and saying nothing. And that's exactly what happened. Then you have the Teresa Dyer team, the first female running for mayor in the village of Hempstead, and she lost by 197 votes. What was wrong with this picture? Lack of money, lack of organization, lack of people power. If you don't have the people power, don't get in the race. If the people don't say, we want you to be our representative, we want you to be the person to lead us, we want you to be the person to come out, then don't get into the race. Now let me just say this also. I don't believe any of these candidates had the endorsement of the community at large, because there's 70,000 people living in the village of Hempstead, and only 3,000 people came out in this race to vote. Yes, it was a rainy day. Yes, it was a nasty weather. But let's look at it. 15,000 votes went to the mayor's side with ease. Then you got 700 to win it to the former mayor. Then you had the Lance Clark, who only got a little over 600 itself, and the rest of it, you do the math. You add it up. We're talking about 2,500 people that came out to vote in a race of 70,000 people. What went wrong? One, there was no advertisement of the race to go to door. Maybe they did knock on every door in the Village of Hempstead, but the understanding of what was at stake. What was at stake in the Village of Hempstead's race this year? $2.5 billion is at stake. Yes, a part of the campaign, the biggest thing was community benefit agreement. But at the end of the day, the community is going to get what it deserves, because if you don't be a part of the problem, part of the solution of the problem, then you're part of the problem itself. And what the problem I feel is that the community has given up on the power that we own. We the people are the power, yet we the people have lost that power by letting other people make decisions for us. And here's back to the caucus. This is my biggest pet peeve. And yes, I'm pretty good friends with the chairman of the Village of Hempstead, who the chairman of the Village of Hempstead had decided not to put the caucus on, which did not give revenues to people she probably didn't want to work with. And I can understand that to a point too. But give the residents of the Village of Hempstead an opportunity to choose that leadership that rises up from amongst them. Give the people of the Village of Hempstead an opportunity to put that person forward that they feel that is going to do best for them. I'm not saying that Mayor Hall wasn't that person. I'm not saying that he would not have won that caucus. Who knows? We don't know. But between Perry Pettis and Henry Connors and Mayor Wayne Hall, which the caucus probably would have been, plus Teresa Dyer, would have been one of those three probably would have been the lead with that same resources, which you got that same result. Because I've been in this game long enough to know that once the machine is in place, and the oil is in the machine, and the machine is ready to go, there's no way they can't be defeated. The proof of that is watch this next county executive race. The machine is going to get behind Tom Suozzi. Tom Suozzi is going to win in the primary. Tom Suozzi is probably going to win the county itself. Because once the machine is in place, and once the machine is equipped right, it can't lose. It won't lose. There's no way that the machine can lose. And many people with that in their hand know, I don't want to jeopardize the loss of the machine. Because if I lose the machine, I can't win scrapped on my own. Because in reality, most communities in America, the community at large are committee people. The committee people have a certain amount of way to vote, and that way to vote comes from the gubernatorial race. When your gubernatorial race in the electoral district, the number that it carries is the number that gives you the weighting power in your committee. Now, the committee has never voted on a village chair. The village chair was given by the chairman. They changed the bylaws because the bylaws at one time stated that the caucus is put together for that the community village residents, committee people will vote on their chairman, and then the chairman would chair over the caucus. And any designated Democrat that would like to be representative inside that zone or that area gets an opportunity to run amongst his peers in a caucus. But furthermore, we're big enough. We are 40-some thousand Democrats living in the Village of Hempstead. Over 40,000 some Democrats living in the Village of Hempstead. We should have the right to a primary. Why is it a Democratic committee who wants to put out Democratic committee material don't want to pay for a primary, not a caucus? A caucus is just a meeting in the room. But we're talking about putting voting machines up as a primary in the Village of Hempstead, all 14 polling sites, and let the people decide who they want to have as a candidate. Why? Because they don't feel that we're worthy of a primary. They don't think that we're worthy enough to put us in a place that we can pick as regular folks to choose our leadership, because our leadership is being selected for us and not being produced by us. Until we get the opportunity to produce our own leadership, we're all going to be in the same economical bond that we're in now. Yes, there are $2 billion projects that's coming to the Village of Hempstead. The question is, and here's the question, people, how much of the construction that we're going to get is, say, 25%, but 25% of what? 25% of what? Of the construction, of the retailing, of what? We need to understand that 25% is not enough for a community that's producing all the revenue for everybody else. Meaning that only 25% of the people locally will be able to get a piece of that pie, when 75% will come from outsiders. It's the same thing with everything else. And the housing, they don't want us to live here any longer. 10% housing is inside of it. And I'm only saying all that because this is the future. This is where we're going now. There's no turning back. Right now, we're about to see the change of the Village of Hempstead. For the betterment, I pray, I hope, I fast to that. But reality is, we have not have a say in the control of this. Therefore, we have to take what comes to us. We as a community have to now sit back and wait another 4 years and see what develops out of this project. This project may be the greatest thing ever happened in Long Island. It may be the greatest nightmare that happened in Long Island. What I say to the people who are listening to me that are understanding what I'm saying about the community is as great as its people. And if the people are not involved in the democratic process, then we are not we're subject to whatever we receive from outside the process, because you can't win it being outside throwing a rock. You have to be inside and working from the inside out. And until we get involved as committee people, until we become legislative district leaders, until we become vice presidents of the Democratic Committee, until we have those positions of power of committeemen and also commissioners, until we have commissions and when we can employ our people and put people to work and make sure they have decent incomes and decent living, we won't have a say. It's about economic development. No more, no less. People run for office so they can develop economics, not because they want to be your friend and be nice to you. The reason why people want this is because there's a $2 billion project that's probably going to break ground now in April, and we'll start seeing a change in the village of Hempstead. Yes, the race was fantastic. Yes, there was a lot of signs out. Yes, there was a lot of stealing of signs. In fact, some of the people stole their own committee people signs. They stole their signs because they didn't want to get more votes to them, but it happened anyway. And these type of people put out negative campaign ads instead of promoting their people who are running their team so people can know who these individuals are. They rather put out negative information, boss hog information about Democratic chairman, who's he controlling, why is he controlling these people. But let's face it, if we're not a part, yes, people like this will always run our communities. People like this will always have a say. All this crying of wolf is not the answer. You have to be a part of the situation itself in order to maintain and gain anything out of it. We refuse to be a part of the process, yet we quickly call it's the man, it's the man, it's the man. It's not the man, it's us. We need to learn the rules, learn the bylaws, learn the way things run, and go forward. Once we understand the process, there's no one who can beat us the process. It's like anything we get involved with. Once we understand it, once we know it, there's no way of stopping us. We need to be more involved in the process. There's no reason why the Democratic Party has to bring out the Board of Election and everybody in the Board of Election to run a village race. The reason why that is because the people in those Democratic clubs are not educated and don't understand the process. If they understood the process and what's at stake, they too would have been in the streets knocking on doors, carrying flyers and carrying banners. But being that we're being cheated out the process from not having a caucus, to not understanding how your weighted vote works as a Democratic committee person, to not being educated to the whole Democratic process, is keeping us back. And that goes on the Republican side too. I only can talk about it as a Democrat because I'm a Democrat. But if I was a Republican, it was the same way. Because you don't see strong black Republican leadership either in the village of Hempstead. That's why two Republicans, should I say, Lance Clark and Jim Gardner, went at odds with each other. If you put their two votes together, if you put Jim Gardner's 700 votes and you put Lance Clark's 500 votes, all together you still wouldn't have been able to beat Dwayne Hall. So it proves to a point that the machinery was still working. You need a machine to beat the machine. And if you don't build a machine, you can't work against the machine. You can throw rocks all day long, but there's only a few Davids and there's only a few Goliaths in this universe. And every now and then you might get a lucky stone and knock the machine out the way. But you won't be able to knock the machine out all the time. So the only way to beat the machine is to build the machine or work with the machine. Get into the machine and work its mechanics. Learn the mechanics of the machine and be a part of the process. For being a part of the process is victory. Being outside the process is defeat. We're being defeated because we're outside. We need to become insiders. For example, hold people to accountability when this says you only can hold 2 positions as a Democratic committee person at a time. You can't let that person have 5 seats and let them have all type of answers to all types of questions that they do not know the answers for, and someone else is giving them the answers and telling them this is the right thing for us as a people. It's not the way it works. If that's the rules, let's all obey by those rules. Let's all live out those rules. Let's all maintain it. Merit shouldn't change the rules because it's in Valley Stream. Valley Street shouldn't change the rules if it's in Elmont. Elmont shouldn't choose the rules if it's in Hempstead. It's all municipalities in the same place. Same hamlets, same villages, same rules. If the rules apply in one community, it should apply in the same community. Don't change up because we look different. Don't change the rules because you think you should change the rules. Don't change the rules because you want to win. I understand winning is good, but be fair, have a fair process, have a fair outcome, because a fair outcome is a happier people. I'm pretty satisfied with this because I predicted before that Wayne Hall was going to win. Why? Because he had the organization, 2, he had the money, and 3, he had the machine. The machine is what the problem is. We have to be in it to win it. Be a part of the machine. We'll be a part of the process. That's how we have victory. That's the way it has to be done. Thank you for listening.
They talk